Well, we remained in the field of healthcare access, which is of so much concern in Africa. Bola Bardet, a native of Benin, experienced the loss of a loved one, which led her to create a service that provides the diaspora and their families with medical service packages to benefit from medical checkups and to treat themselves in Africa. Solutions for the continent's future that are expected to emerge on a wide scale, as she explained to Laurent Soustras and Thierry Schiller.
Bola Bardet, welcome to Initiative Africa. You run a rather peculiar insurance company. How would you describe it?
Bonjour Laurence. Donc je dirige Susu.
Hi Laurence, yes, I run Susu, a digital health service with a mission to bring affordable and accessible health solutions to the people of Africa. At Susu, we offer solutions designed for people with diabetes, high blood pressure, and pregnant women who are often a vulnerable population with very limited access to health care, and yet they desperately need it. And so we provide them with a combination of curative and preventive care from our digital platform to improve follow-up and health monitoring. In addition, and most importantly, we ask their relatives who are based abroad, in other words, the African diaspora, to finance or co-finance these services on behalf of one or several beneficiaries in their country of origin.
These products don't exist in Africa?
No. No,
they don't. We are really innovative in what we do, I mean in our approach, in both the service itself and its financing. So, for example, in terms of service, it's really a package of medical services we're going to offer. For pregnant women, it will be a set of prenatal and postnatal consultations, midwives' visit at home, checkups and ultrasounds, and all this will be packaged. On top of that, they will have access to articles through our application and prevention videos on pregnancy, and finally they have access to a chat room where they can ask any questions they may have, and a team of experts will answer to them. So that's the service aspect. And the funding side, we're also innovative because we rely on the financial manna from the African diaspora. More than 100 billion euros are sent every year by the diaspora to their relatives back home, including 20 billion dedicated to healthcare. So we count on these 20 billion euros to provide their relatives with quality healthcare and at the same time provide people in the diaspora with a guarantee that their money is being used wisely.
Which insurance products are most popular with your customers? Which ones are the most successful?
Alors, donc, comme je disais, on propose aujourd'hui 2 types de bouquets de santé.
Today we offer 2 types of health packages. We have a maternity package to monitor pregnant women. We have a chronic illness package, so it's diabetes and hypertension. And we also offer insurance as a broker in partnership with major insurers in the field. That I have not mentioned. I think I don't have the right to mention them. And the product that works best in terms of the insurance, it's a product called Susu Vital, an essential insurance policy that provides coverage of around 1,500 euros per year. So that's about 1 million CFA francs a year, covering almost all services, including consultations, hospitalization, and everything optical and dental. So it's really complete insurance that covers a person's essential needs, called Susu Vital.
If I am an African man or woman with no family members in the diaspora and want to subscribe to your offer, is it possible today?
It's now possible. At first it wasn't. Why? Because it was my personal story that inspired the creation of Susu. What you need to know is that I'm from the diaspora. I'm originally from Benin with a French nationality. And unfortunately, 5 years ago, I lost someone close to me, my father, who lived in Benin. And it was as a result of this that I imagined Susu. And the focus at the very beginning was quite diaspora-centered, and we were really only proposing to people in the diaspora to subscribe on behalf of relatives based in their country of origin. We realized that our service could also be of interest to local people who wanted to finance it themselves or with the help of relatives. So we recently started offering our services locally in our present countries, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal and Cameroon.
What are the key elements that have contributed to the growth of your company today? Is it this interaction with local health services or the involvement of the diaspora?
On l'attribue au fait qu'on résout.
Well, we attribute this to the fact that we are solving several problems in the diaspora and locally. So the first problem locally is that the penetration rate of health insurance is very low. That means 3%, which means that 97% of the population does not have access to an insurance solution to pay for their health expenses and must pay out of their own pockets. So that's the first problem we are solving by providing access to insurance and other solutions to these people. In addition, we have a target population, vulnerable people, pregnant women, and people with chronic diseases. These people are even more excluded from the insurance system. They are not insurable. Unfortunately, insurers don't want them, and on top of that, they are left on their own in their healthcare journey. They don't have any answers to their basic questions about how to live better with their condition, what diet to follow, how to practice sports, and when you have diabetes, pregnant, and so on. So we provide solutions to all these problems. First of all, we give them a kind of coverage which is an alternative to insurance to help them pay for the expenses related to their medical conditions. And on top of that, we provide them with preventive advice and support with people who are there to answer questions that may arise daily. So that's the problem we're tackling locally. The second problem, which is related but also extremely important, is finance, because the big barrier to quality healthcare on the continent is that people cannot afford to pay for their health expenses. And we bring this innovation which allows relatives who have the financial means to do so to co-finance these needs with the beneficiaries.
Where does the investment in Susu come from? I saw that you had a fundraiser this year. What impact did it have on Susu's activities?
Indeed, we raised funds from private investors at the start and also from Bpifrance, the French government's investment bank, which supports startups and us. So we are delighted with this support. This money was significant in our development because at the beginning we started on a tiny scale in a single country, Côte d'Ivoire. And now with this money we have been able to open two additional countries, Senegal and Cameroon, which we opened a few months ago.
Le Sénégal et le Cameroun qu'on a ouvert récemment, il y a quelques mois. Et en plus de ça, ça a permis.
And in addition to that, it allowed us to finance the acquisition. In other words, marketing to create brand awareness in our existing markets where we are present and set up B2B partnerships with local tech insurance players to improve the distribution and our operations. There's also the very important tech side. It has allowed us to continue to develop and enrich our technological platform, which is really at the heart of the system because it helps us to follow the beneficiary's care pathway. We will have an app where the beneficiary can subscribe to the service. Again, he or she has access to services, to preventive advice, and also has access to the chat. All of this was developed internally at Susu, and our funding made it possible.
Et le financement qu'on a reçu a permis de le faire.
Bola Bardet, when did you notice these gaps in the health and social coverage of people from the diaspora and their relatives in Africa?
Ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est que je ne viens pas du domaine de la santé.
You need to know that I don't come from a health or insurance background. I unfortunately fell into it through a personal tragedy that I experienced. Well, my father, who died at age 65, had high blood pressure in Benin at the time. He had no insurance to cover his health needs. And on top of that, as I was saying, he was completely on his own regarding the basic issues that could help him live better with his condition.
Vivre mieux avec sa condition. And
so it was his death that made me conscious of the problem, especially since I myself, a member of the diaspora, could not help him. And I realized that I could have sent money through money transfer channels, but that money would not have solved the problem, which was a problem of access to quality healthcare for him. That's how the idea of Susu came about, and I became aware of the local health challenges in our countries, and the challenges that the diaspora also has in caring for their loved ones.
Également pour prendre soin de leurs proches.
But it took some courage because you studied at HEC Business School, you had a well-established finance career and worked in private banking. How did you find the resources to set up this company?
It was obvious from my story because my father was dear to me, so for me the question didn't even arise. Besides that, indeed, I had already been an entrepreneur for a few years. I had created a consulting company and I know what entrepreneurship is.
Société dans le domaine du conseil, donc je sais ce que c'est que l'entrepreneuriat, je savais.
I knew when I started the Susu adventure that even if the level of challenge was not the same, Susu is much more challenging than anything I've ever done before in terms of entrepreneurship.
How did your training and professional experience help you kickstart this project?
Je suis diplômée d'une école de commerce.
I graduated from a business school, a very generalist course. You learn about all the different aspects of entrepreneurship, including management, finance, economics, human resources, marketing and sales.
Donc voilà, j'avais ce background au moins technique qui m'a
I had
permis
at least a technical background that allowed me to start from scratch.
Et en plus de ça, comme je disais, en tant qu'entrepreneur.
On top of that, as an entrepreneur, you know how to manage to get by. I think it's an ability that I have inside me and which has enabled me to, well, say, to find solutions to the problems that have arisen up to now.
Trouver des solutions aux problèmes qui se sont posés jusque-là.
How do you see Susu's partnerships with traditional insurers? Are they interested in this project?
Tout à fait. Susu, pour eux, est une vraie aubaine.
Absolutely. Susu is a real godsend for them because it allows them to increase their turnover, which is relatively small. Again, the insurance covers only 3% of the population. Through Susu, they will look for market share outside the country, since it is financed by people who live outside the country. It gives them a guarantee that their funds will be collected. A guarantee they do not have when dealing directly with individuals, who often come from the informal sector, so they don't necessarily have pay slips or an address. Susu is therefore a real opportunity for them to generate a turnover from clients who may be a little more solvent than the clients they usually have.
You spent your youth in Benin, but you were born in France. Today, you go back to Africa as an entrepreneur. Is it challenging to come back to the continent with a new experience from the West and to find Africa with a healthcare system that may not have evolved much?
C'est très challengeant. Effectivement, aujourd'hui, Susu.
It is very challenging. Indeed, today, Susu, we have one foot in Europe because we address the African diaspora there, and one foot in Africa. It allows us to see the gap that exists in terms of support for entrepreneurs between France and Africa.
Entre la France et l'Afrique. La France, je disais qu'on était soutenu par la BPI.
In France, I said that BPI France supported us. In Africa, we're not supported by anyone. And also we have important infrastructure issues because infrastructure is fundamental, the basic ingredient for an entrepreneur. So we have challenges that we have to deal with every day. From Paris, we have to deal with power cuts and power outages, things that seem relatively trivial to us in Europe at the moment, but are realities that an entrepreneur has to deal with daily in the field. So these are additional difficulties that come on top of the inherent problem of any entrepreneur. So I realize this daily. And what about the health system? Yes, I realize this all the more because when you live in France, a country with a formidable health system, you can measure the gap between the two, which is abysmal. This health system is that of African countries. I was in Benin this summer with my son who is ill. I realized how difficult it was to provide him with primary care between the interminable waiting times in hospitals and clinics. And the difficulty of finding quality staff who have empathy and respond to clients' needs. These are things we're trying to correct at our small level. We hope to grow as we go along and to have a lot of support to achieve our mission.
Hence the new fundraising, and you are in the middle of the process, aren't you? How is it going, and how are you going to use these new funds?
Ça se passe bien. Une levée de fonds, c'est long, ça prend du temps.
It's going well. Fundraising is long, it takes time, it's a lot of energy and a lot of effort. So it's an ordeal for an entrepreneur. So we are in the middle of it. It started at the beginning of the summer. Then we were in discussions with investors. And the aim is to develop our services in West Africa over the next 24 months. So we'll continue offering our services in new destinations and countries. We'll continue to build our digital platform, which is really at the heart of what we do and will enable us to provide our service to more and more people on a larger scale. And finally, we will set up partnerships with insurance players, such as mutual insurance companies, groups and employers, to provide the service to as many people as possible. This is an essential fundraising exercise for us, and we hope to complete it by the end of this year.
Bola Bardet, thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurence.